I saw my wife had called a strange number 21 times this week. I stormed straight into the bathroom to confront her. She looked at me head full of shampoo with a completely exasperated expression. If you think I'm cheating, just call the number and ask. Pick one, anyone, and call it. The door slammed shut. I was sure. I dialed the number. A cheerful man's voice answered. Welcome to the Grove Kitchen and Bar. How can I help you? The Grove was a restaurant I went to all the time. I hung up, embarrassed. Later, when I was at the restaurant for dinner, I mentioned it to the manager. Your guy at the front desk is really professional. This is a little something for him, I said, offering a tip. The manager looked at me confused. We don't have any male receptionists. It's always been women. I pretended I'd misremembered and played it cool. Then, I went home and pulled the navigation history from my wife's car. Just as I suspected, I found a condo listed under my mother-in-law's name. When I knocked on the door, a man wearing nothing but a towel answered. I stared at the man in front of me. Droplets of water traced paths down his defined abs before disappearing into the towel. He looked 5 or 6 years younger than me in the prime of his life. He must have been expecting someone else because a flash of surprise crossed his eyes. Then I heard that same cheerful, familiar voice. You must be Jake, right? I'm Catherine's distant cousin. I'm just crashing here while I'm applying to grad school. I looked at him coldly. So, Catherine had already cooked up an excuse for him. I couldn't imagine how many times they'd rehearsed this. He didn't show a single crack in his story. If it hadn't been for that phone call, even if I'd found this place, I never would have suspected a thing. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, and my heart sank. And you are? I pushed my glasses up, sizing him up. All right, look at me. Forgot to introduce myself. My name's Leo Vance. He held out his hand. I let out a short, cynical laugh. Pretty friendly, aren't you? I brushed past him and walked into the condo. As our shoulders passed, I noticed a string of numbers tattooed on his bicep. SJ717. My eyes narrowed, locking onto the stylized script. He noticed me looking. That's my old college team's name and the day it was founded, he explained casually. We were young and intense back then, thought the date was the most important thing in the world. So, I got it tattooed. Even though his tone was light, he kept watching me out of the corner of his eye. I understood one thing from his gaze. That date had something to do with Catherine. Had they been hooking up since college? But that was 4 years ago. How could I have not noticed a single thing? My stare grew colder. I scanned the room. It was clearly lived in. There was no TV in the living room, just a massive projector screen set up like a mini home theater. Instead of a couch, there were Japanese-style tatamats on the floor. Next to them sat a high-end massage chair that must have cost a fortune. I could almost picture them spending countless passionate nights in this very spot. Just as I was about to head into the bedroom, the front door opened again. It was Catherine. She got here fast. I stood by the doorway, a smirk on my face, watching her walk in, her hair slightly messy. What are you doing here? She went on the offensive immediately. Jake Anderson, are you investigating me? Her face turned cold and hard. She was clearly pissed. Normally, this would be my cue to drop everything and try to make her happy. Now, I just pointed toward the bedroom. Then, why don't you explain this? She frowned and walked right up to me, conveniently blocking my view of Leo. What's there to explain? He's my cousin. My mom asked me to look after him. Is that a problem? I didn't say anything. She let out an exasperated laugh and pulled out her phone, dialing her mother. Mom, Jake thinks I'm cheating on him. You need to explain the whole thing with Leo because he obviously won't believe a word I say. Then, to my complete shock, she shoved the phone in my hands. Jake. Honey, Leo is your cousin-in-law's son. I'm the one who asked Kat to look after him. She probably just didn't mention it because you've been so busy. I'm so sorry, dear. My mother-in-law's warm, gentle voice came through the phone as if she were infinitely patient with my paranoia. Jake, you have to come over for dinner when you have a free evening. Okay, I got to run to my bridge game now, honey. So, I'll talk to you later. After she hung up, the shock still hadn't left my face. Catherine stared at me. You believe me now? Let's go home. Don't make a scene in front of Leo. Leo, standing beside her, offered a sympathetic smile. Catherine, don't say that. It just shows how much Jake cares about you. Right, Jake? I followed Catherine downstairs in silence. She turned to me. I have a meeting this afternoon. We'll settle this when I get back. She clicked away in her heels, her heavy steps, making it seem like she was still furious with my ridiculous behavior as she quickly disappeared from sight. I lowered my eyes. After thinking for a moment, I called my old friend. Mark, I need you to run a check on someone for me. Mark sent the file over before dinner. Different college from Catherine. No overlap in their lives whatsoever. It was almost like he really was just a distant cousin. I frowned, my brow furrowed. A moment later, another message came from Mark again. Check my mother-in-law. Major expenses for the last 3 years. Purchase histories, bank statements, real estate transfers, everything. Mark replied instantly. Dude, are you crazy? You've always treated your mother-in-law like she was your own mom. Why the sudden deep dive on her? I didn't reply. I just turned off my phone and stared out the window. I guess my love for Catherine extended to her family. She came from a single-parent home, and I was always grateful to her mother for raising her. From the day we got married, I treated her like my own mother. Every time Catherine and I fought, her mom was always firmly on my side. If all of that was a lie, then what was real? Half an hour later, Mark called me directly. Holy man. How the hell did you figure this out? Catherine's been playing you for a fool all these years. I sent everything over. See for yourself. I opened a file on my mother-in-law's bank statements. Starting 3 years ago, Catherine had been wiring $15,000 into one of her mother's accounts every single month. But their other spending was just ordinary living expenses. The most frequent purchases were from a specific Japanese lifestyle brand. A regular charge every single week. I scrolled up and saw the date the account was opened. 7/17. I got it. It was their anniversary. Then I opened the second document. These were purchases made from my mother-in-law's primary account. There was the condo they were in now. The massage chair worth tens of thousands of dollars. A sports car transferred from overseas. And for every single one of these items, there was a clearly signed gift agreement. I started laughing, but my face was wet with tears. What was Catherine thinking when she set all this up? Was she already planning the excuses she'd use if I ever found out? What was going through her mind when she did all this? The last document was the final straw. It was an investment made in her mother's name in a clothing brand's design studio. Under the list of shareholders and founders was one name, Leo Vance. I did not know how I made it home. When I came to my senses, my car was already parked in the underground garage. My phone was buzzing with a string of traffic alerts for speeding and running red lights. I covered my face and slumped over the steering wheel, unable to get my emotions under control. My phone rang, the sound piercing the silence of the car. I answered, exhausted. Jake, where are you? Why am I getting all these speeding alerts? Did something happen? Catherine's voice was frantic, laced with worry. I was in a hurry, dropping off some documents for someone. I lied. Her angry voice shot back. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Pull over right now. I'll come pick you up. I could hear her rustling around, getting dressed. Don't bother. I'm in the garage. The sound on her end stopped instantly. Catherine breathed a sigh of relief. Well, hurry up and come inside. The moment the elevator doors opened, I saw Catherine in her loungewear with a coat thrown hastily over it. Her eyes were filled with concern. She started rambling, complaining about how a man my age shouldn't be driving like a maniac and how dangerous it was. I just stared at her. The woman who was so worried about my safety was the same woman meticulously building a new life for another man. That night after Catherine was asleep, I found a new lawyer. I had him start calculating our assets and sent him all the records I had. I told him to handle everything thoroughly. The next morning, I woke up to find Catherine had for once made breakfast. I have a meeting with a client in Bellevue today. It's on your way. Can you give me a ride? I looked at her quietly for a moment, then nodded. It wasn't time to blow things up yet. I needed more solid evidence. On the drive, my phone kept ringing just as I was about to answer. Catherine snatched it and declined the call. Are you hiding a little something on the side from me? She teased. Hearing her turn the tables on me like that, I scoffed internally. In the end, she kept pestering me until I agreed not to take the call. When I got to my office building, my assistant was waiting for me downstairs. He hurried over as I walked up. After a moment's hesitation, he asked cautiously, Sir, have you had any contact recently with a studio called SJ? My breath caught in my throat at the familiar name. My mouth went dry. A terrible feeling washed over me. No, I haven't. He quickly handed me a tablet displaying a dozen design sketches. My breathing hitched. Looking at the familiar design elements, a fire of rage ignited in my chest. I strode quickly to my office and told him to give me the full story. It turned out this studio SJ had published a set of concept designs and had them copyrighted. The design elements on the clothes were almost identical to my company's star product line for the upcoming season. The tricky part was we had always planned to maintain an element of surprise. We hadn't publicly revealed the designs at all. We had already started the production run. The celebrity endorsements were already signed. This meant that if consumers thought we were the copycats, the company would suffer catastrophic losses. Worse still, we would burn bridges with a whole network of partners. A chill ran down my spine. The first person I thought of was Catherine. I never imagined that to pave the way for Leo, she would be willing to sacrifice the company I built from the ground up. Before I could even think of a strategy, another assistant burst into my office. "Mr. Anderson, the guy behind the plagiarism is on an interview right now." I sat up straight and took the assistant's phone. Leo Vance was on a popular business show, Market Makers. He was dressed in neat casual style, looking like the innocent boy next door. He handled the host's sharp questions with a calm confidence that was winning him plenty of favor. When asked why the studio had that name, he casually lifted his sleeve, revealing the tattoo on his bicep. "It's to honor someone who is incredibly important to me. I want her name to be not just in my heart, but on my body and in my life. She is everywhere." The host looked impressed. "That must be your partner then. Would you mind sharing your story?" He shook his head with a bashful smile. I promised her I wouldn't mention her in public without her permission. A few comments popped up in the live chat. "Can't mention her. What kind of relationship is that? You think she's married?" The chat quickly devolved into an argument. I stared at the comments, lost in deep thought. The host asked another question. "So, what was the inspiration for this design collection, and why call it Golden Hour?" Leo froze for a second. The host continued. "Does it refer to the time you met this person? During a beautiful sunset, perhaps? She must be a fan of warm golden light." Leo clearly didn't have a proper answer. I had no idea why the host had brought that up, but Leo quickly found a way out. He gave a little wink to the camera and a mysterious smile. He didn't say another word. I stared at the screen, my voice low. "Nothing gold can stay." That was the real inspiration for the collection's name. I never thought it would become a self-fulfilling prophecy. After the interview, Leo Vance became an overnight sensation. After all, the designs were the product of half a year's hard work by my entire team. They set the whole design world on fire. Leo's studio went from a complete unknown to being flooded with partnership offers. It only took a single month. And in that month, 4 of my senior designers quit. The morale of my company hit rock bottom. In just 30 days, the media had crowned Leo a genuine design prodigy. Meanwhile, things with Catherine were getting more and more chaotic. First, one of her investments went bust, and she was desperate to cover the heavy losses. She told me she needed to transfer $500,000 from our joint account. I glanced at her, my face impassive. I agreed without hesitation. Not long after, my lawyer sent me solid proof. The bank statement showed exactly where the money had gone. I continued to play along with all her tricks. After that, she grew far bolder. Using a company we co-owned, she launched a charitable initiative. She approved a $750,000 RD loan directly for Leo. The paperwork looked legitimate enough on the surface. Reviews, signatures, no obvious red flags for any outsider. I smiled coldly as I looked at the documents. I figured once that money came through, it would be enough for Leo to turn his little studio into a full-fledged formal company. And sure enough, SJ Company was officially born. They started hiring staff aggressively. Office equipment, computers, they bought the best of everything without hesitation. Meanwhile, my own company was stuck in a serious crisis. An employee would quit my company one day and the next day get an offer from SJ for double the salary I was paying. It seemed Leo was fully ready to go head-to-head against me openly. One day, Catherine, who hadn't been home for a whole week, suddenly showed up at the door. "Jake, I might have to go out of town for a bit. There's a problem with one of the out-of-state offices." I forced a smile, my eyes filled with undisguised scorn. "How much do you need?" Catherine waved her hands dismissively. "I heard things are tough for you right now. How are you holding up? Are you managing all right?" Her blatant attempt to gauge my current situation only hardened my heart further. "Catherine," I thought silently, "let's see who's left standing at the end of this game." I deliberately put on an exhausted expression. Playing my part perfectly, I said, "It's fine. Don't worry about me. If you need anything while you're there, just ask. This hardship won't break me." That line completely erased any suspicion she might have had towards me. She leaned in and kissed my cheek gently. "Oh, honey, I knew you were the best." That night, I claimed I was working in my study, but I actually spent it in the guest bathroom washing my face over and over again. The next day, Catherine left with her luggage, a solemn look on her face, as if she were really off to solve some major work crisis. In reality, she drove straight to the airport, parked her car, and took an Uber quietly back into the city. Not long after, I got a text from Mark. "Dude, holy hell, just saw your wife at a super expensive couples-themed hotel. Damn, man. This makes me sick. When are you finally going to make your move?" I texted back only 2 words, "Stay calm." 2 days later, I received definite confirmation that Catherine had injected another $1.5 million into SJ. In total, she had secretly transferred $2,750,000. Enough funds to build Leo a complete production line matched with full logistics support. Catherine really spared no expense for him. Blinded by her so-called success, or perhaps fully convinced her plan was foolproof, she didn't even bother to cover her tracks this time. The entire money trail was crystal clear and undeniable. And that was the perfect moment I had been patiently waiting for. I met my lawyer at a quiet and discreet tea house. My mother-in-law's bank statements and all gift agreements were laid out. Copies of documents that had been carefully forged by them were sorted neatly. Chat logs they thought they had permanently deleted were also prepared. All the decisive evidence was laid out on the table. The lawyer's expression was extremely grim. "This is not only solid proof of malicious transfer of marital assets," he said. "It also constitutes criminal fraud." I nodded calmly and gathered all the evidence together. I was just waiting for them to climb to what they believed was the very peak of success. On the day of SJ Company's grand opening ceremony, Leo was the absolute center of attention, surrounded by crowds of guests. All kinds of praise came pouring in from all sides. "Mr. Vance, you've accomplished so much at such a young age. SJ Studio is on a steady trajectory to become the next big hit in the whole industry. Catherine, your eye for spotting talent is just incredible." Catherine stood not far from Leo, beaming with undisguised pride. They were undoubtedly the shining stars of the whole event. This was the glamorous scene Catherine had fully bought and paid for with my original designs and my hard-earned money. Just as the atmosphere reached its peak for the ribbon-cutting ceremony, the MC's booming voice filled the entire hall. "Distinguished guests, we have now arrived at the most exciting moment of the evening. Please give your warmest round of applause for the founder of SJ Studio, Mr. Leo Vance, and his investor, Miss Catherine Miller, as they come to the stage for the ribbon cutting." Thunderous applause nearly blew the roof off the venue. And at that exact moment, I pushed open the main doors and walked in slowly. The bright smile on Catherine's face froze the instant she saw me. She dropped the golden scissors and rushed over in a panic, ignoring all the stares of the crowd. "Jake, what are you doing here? This is Leo's big day. Whatever it is, we can talk about it calmly at home." I calmly pulled my arm away, my gaze shifting past her to land firmly on Leo. "I don't think we have anything to talk about in private, but I do have a few things I'd like to discuss openly with Mr. Vance." With that, I walked straight to the large screen at the front of the room and plugged in a flash drive. "I'd like to ask Mr. Vance how the designs my whole team spent 6 months polishing suddenly became his own works. They say young people should stand on the shoulders of giants, but shouldn't you at least give the giant a simple heads up beforehand?" The whole room erupted in loud murmurs. The media immediately smelled a huge scandal. Cameras all swiveled to face me. My voice wasn't overly loud, but it carried clearly to every single corner of the room. "Catherine, when you were secretly funneling our joint money to this man, building him a huge business empire step by step, did you ever stop to think that it was all our shared marital property?" I clicked the remote and a video recorded in our conference room appeared on screen. The timestamp was from 6 months ago. In the video, one of my designers was asking me, "Sir, are we confirming that the core concept for Golden Hour is the sense of loss from nothing gold can stay?" "That's right," I replied. "The focus is on transience and precious memories. The design elements need to revolve around the idea of fading beauty. The line should be fluid, but have a sense of subtle fragmentation." The scene switched to another internal meeting. The designers were discussing specific patterns, how to abstract classic motifs like clouds and orchids for modern apparel. I pointed out several rounds of revision directions. The screen cycled through frames showing the evolution of the design drafts from rough sketches to polished final versions. Every single revision report bore my clear signature. Finally, the screen froze on one of Leo's core designs. Aside from the brand logo and a slightly different color palette, it was almost identical to our official final version. The entire venue fell into deathly silence. Leo swayed unsteadily on his feet, looking like he was about to faint on the spot. Catherine was the first to react sharply. Jake, your claiming golden hour is yours. You forged all this fake evidence purely because you're jealous that I'm willing to support Leo, aren't you? You're my husband. You don't need to resort to such pathetic tactics just to assert your dominance over me. She was trying every means to pin all the blame on me. I laughed coldly without any warmth. Catherine, I am merely defending my legitimate legal rights. If you truly disagree, why don't you just call the police right now? I stared her down firmly. Suddenly, Leo dropped heavily to his knees in the middle of the stage with a loud thud. Jake, I'm Catherine's cousin. We've explained this matter so many times already. We even had my aunt personally call you to clarify everything. Why won't you ever believe us? Catherine mentioned before that you might be having some mental health issues, but I never thought it was this serious. You are fabricating all of this groundless evidence just to frame me. You're going to completely ruin my life. Camera flashes went off nonstop all around. The crowd's expression quickly shifted from doubt to pity towards Leo. Catherine visibly relaxed after seeing this reaction. I clenched my fists tightly. People were already looking at me like I was an unreasonable psychopath. Someone even suggested calling a psychiatric hospital to take me away. A faint cold smile played on my lips. I shot Catherine a cold stare. Catherine, do you also truly think I have a mental illness? Her eyes darted around nervously. Don't worry, she said in a soft tone. I'll get you an appointment with the best therapist in town. I cut her off directly. Fine, how about this? You go find a professional therapist to come evaluate me, and while we're waiting, I'll show everyone something a little more interesting. Amid a sea of shocked faces, I clicked open another evidence folder. Leo knelt on stage, sobbing loudly, perfectly playing the part of a pitiful wronged victim. Anyone who didn't know the truth would really believe he was just Catherine's ordinary distant cousin. Leo, are you absolutely sure you and Catherine are related by blood? Leo froze instantly, not daring to answer a single word. His evasive and flustered expression was captured in sharp detail by all the cameras. All eyes were fixed on me, waiting for what I would say next. Just as I was about to speak, Catherine lashed out sharply. Jake, have you made enough of a scene already? Her voice became shrill, an obvious attempt to overpower my words. She rushed forward, trying to yank the flash drive out of the projector forcefully. Are you happy now that you've ruined everything for us? Stop talking nonsense and making a fool of yourself in front of everyone. I easily blocked her hand, my eyes swept over her and Leo, cold as ice, before settling on the crowd and the flashing cameras. The ones who ruined everything were never me. It's your own endless greed and shamelessness that have made you both a laughingstock in front of everyone. What does all this have to do with me? Don't get in my way. Can't you see how badly everyone wants to see the whole truth come out? If you have nothing to hide at all, why are you so desperate to shut me up immediately? Catherine looked at the eager faces in the audience, all hungry for fresh gossip and truth. A wave of overwhelming despair washed over her. She knew I would never back down today, and she had no idea what other powerful cards I was still holding in my hand. Then a reckless thought occurred to her. Maybe I was just bluffing. Maybe I had no more real evidence left. She forced herself to suppress her rising inner panic. Say whatever you want, she said dismissively. Lies are still nothing but lies in the end. I was finally done playing all these childish games with her. I took out my phone and dialed the pre-prepared number. You can come in now. The main doors of the hall swung open wide again. My lawyer entered steadily, accompanied by two officials in formal notary public uniforms. They carried thick document folders and walked calmly straight to my side. To all our friends in the media and to all distinguished guests here tonight, I'll now hand the floor over to my lawyer. To ensure the absolute authenticity and legal validity of all evidence, we have also brought professional officials from the notary's office to testify. If anyone has any questions or doubts, feel free to challenge all the evidence openly. I stepped back quietly. The lawyer scanned the entire room slowly, his voice professional and calm. My client, Mr. Jake Anderson, is here today to officially present conclusive evidence that his spouse, Miss Catherine Miller, during the course of their legal marriage, maliciously transferred large sums of shared marital assets to fully finance Mr. Leo Vance and his affiliated company, SJ Studio. The lawyer began to read from the official documents one by one as the notaries displayed all certified copies for everyone present to see clearly. First transfer $500,000. Ms. Miller claimed it was to cover losses from a failed investment project. In reality, the money was wired directly into Mr. Vance's personal private account. Second transfer $750,000. Ms. Miller, through a company under her exclusive name, approved this fund as a legitimate or D loan to SJ Studio. Third transfer $1.5 million, claimed to be for out-of-state branch company's daily operational costs. It was actually fully invested directly into SJ Studios specially for the purchase of complete production line equipment. The facts were completely undeniable and irrefutable. Faced with such solid proof, Catherine had nothing left to say at all. At the same time, in a live stream of a media outlet covering the ceremony, the number of online viewers skyrocketed rapidly. The entire comment section completely exploded. All viewers were shocked by the huge plot twist. While the venue was in an uproar, another fast-moving media crew was already knocking on the door of Catherine's mother's house. Unaware of what was happening at the opening ceremony, her mother saw the reporters with their cameras and mistakenly assumed Leo had finally made it big. Thinking she was about to get a taste of his fame and glory, she beamed brightly at the camera, lavishing endless praise without any restraint. "Oh my goodness! Are you here to interview Leo? That boy is truly outstanding. So handsome and so incredibly talented. My daughter Catherine has such an amazing eye for spotting promising people. She always has had. Look at this great investment she made in Leo. Didn't she just hit the jackpot perfectly? Our cat is just so blessed and lucky." This casual interview clip was quickly edited together with the live footage from the opening ceremony and paired with heated commentary from the live chat. It went viral across the whole internet in no time, becoming the hottest topic of conversation everywhere. When Catherine's mother finally learned the whole cruel truth from the whispers of her neighbors and a frantic, sobbing phone call from her own daughter, she nearly collapsed on the spot from overwhelming shame and boundless anger. For months afterward, she did not dare set foot outside her own house. At this point, any excuse and defense were completely futile. The formal divorce proceedings officially began immediately. It wasn't until she was officially served with a court summons that Catherine seemed to truly grasp that I was determined to erase her from my life completely. Before the court hearing at the courthouse entrance, she rushed over and firmly grabbed my arm, her voice breaking down completely. "Jake, please listen to me carefully. Can we just stop all this right now? Let's go home together. We can easily go back to how peaceful things used to be. I promise I will cut off all contact with Leo and erase him out of my life for good." I pulled my arm away gently but firmly. My face remained a blank, emotionless mask. She foolishly thought marriage was just a simple game where any mistake could be easily undone with a few tears and insincere apologies. But some cracks, once they form deep inside hearts, will turn into permanent, unbridgeable chasms. "Catherine, I'll see you officially in court." My voice was completely devoid of all formal warmth and affection. In the courtroom, her lawyer tried his best to argue her case. My client, Miss Catherine Miller's investment in Mr. Leo Vance's studio was purely based on a sincere desire to help a close relative and a genuine belief in the project's future potential. It was nothing more than a normal commercial business investment, not any form of malicious transfer of marital assets. A close relative? My lawyer immediately presented the results of a detailed professional genealogical investigation. The so-called cousin relationship between Mr. Leo Vance and Miss Catherine Miller is a complete fabricated lie without any factual basis. As for all those so-called investments, there were never any formal professional assessment reports, nor any reasonable expectation of legitimate business returns. The sole real purpose was to secretly divert joint marital assets to fully support her extramarital affair. Next, he presented clear security footage from the condo complex registered in her mother's name. The video clearly showed that less than half an hour after I had left that day, Catherine had quietly returned to the condo, not choosing to leave again until after dark fell. And when she finally did leave, she was wearing a completely different set of clothes. Furthermore, on the exact day she claimed to be away on a long-distance business trip, the car's navigation history clearly showed it never left the airport parking garage at all. She had taken an Uber secretly back into the city and gone straight to a luxury couple-themed hotel. All hotel reservation records and payment receipts matched her actual movements perfectly without any discrepancy. All the color completely drained from Catherine's face. She opened her mouth as if to say something in her defense, but ultimately slumped back weakly in her chair, staring blankly straight ahead, unable to utter a single word anymore. I won the lawsuit completely. Catherine left the marriage with absolutely nothing. All assets she had secretly transferred to Leo Vance and his studio had to be returned in full within 3 months of the official judgment. The day the judgment took full effect, I acted quickly without hesitation. The court official seals were placed firmly on the doors of the brand new company. All of its bank accounts were immediately fully frozen. Leo Vance, who had once been lifted high to the heavens overnight, came crashing straight down into the mud mercilessly. His newly built company was officially dissolved, unable to pay even a single cent of outstanding debts. Former employees picketed outside the office building every single day, demanding their unpaid wages in groups. Those who had rashly jumped ship for double the salary were now facing an extremely harsh, cruel reality. Many of them came back to my company one after another, trying their best to get their old jobs back. Mr. Anderson, we were totally out of our minds back then. Sir, please give us another precious chance. The company is in urgent need of staff right now. I calmly and firmly refused every single one of them without exception. I had already given everyone a fair chance once. They had to bear all the bitter consequences of their own betrayal. After this huge scandal broke out, no enterprise in the whole industry was willing to hire them anymore. They ended up working at small, struggling, unknown firms, their careers completely in tatters. Once all the dust settled gradually, Leo became a complete deadbeat debtor. There was still a large sum of money unaccounted for. Funds he had privately embezzled and squandered for his own extravagant personal use. He fell rapidly from grace, and was soon trampled hard by the very people who had once spared no effort to prop him up. The immense psychological shock and huge gap between reality and fantasy was far more than his fragile mind could handle. He started drinking heavily all day long, and was often found making loud scenes on the street late at night, telling any passerby who would listen that he was once a multimillion-dollar company CEO. All passersby avoided him like he was a lunatic. Someone filmed one of his messy tirades, matched it with ridiculous background music, and posted the video online. He went viral on the internet once again, but in the most humiliating way he could never have imagined. The cruel pressure of harsh reality finally completely broke his already fragile mind. Seeing him fully spiral out of control and have a complete mental breakdown on the street, I contacted a professional psychiatric hospital to take him in. It was in a way the final destination he had brought entirely upon himself. Life was equally extremely hard for Catherine's mother as well. Constant gossip and whispers from her neighbors made it impossible for her to stay in her original city. She was finally forced to retreat back to her remote small hometown. But in a small town, news travels far faster and the words spoken are far more venomous. She went from being the person everyone envied the most to the biggest laughingstock of the entire county. Finally unable to bear all the endless whispers and strange stares any longer on a quiet early morning, she ended her own life with a rope, never being able to escape the vicious rumors that hounded her right to the very end. After handling her mother's simple funeral affairs, Catherine fell into total silence. She gradually disappeared completely from all public view. She had lost her happy marriage, all her wealth and social status, and even her own mother forever. Her beloved lover was locked away in a mental institution, and her own personal reputation was thoroughly destroyed beyond repair. She could only survive on what little leftover money she had left and by doing various humble odd jobs to make ends meet. Occasionally, a few people would catch sight of her staring silently at my company's skyscraper from a distant place. After successfully weathering this huge career crisis, my company's market value multiplied several times over rapidly. My personal wealth and social status continued to climb steadily upwards. I appeared on the covers of various famous business magazines many times, successfully becoming one of the youngest self-made billionaires on the official rich list. Catherine could only silently watch all my brilliant success from the dark shadows. She would never again have the qualification to stand proudly before me. The rest of her entire life would be spent enduring endless torment in a crucible of endless regret and lonely solitude. I stood beside the floor-to-ceiling window of my top-floor office, quietly looking out at the glittering vast city lights stretching far away. All the past sufferings felt like a painful and absurd nightmare that had long faded away. Now this terrible dream was finally completely over. Marriage was just like a finely crafted precious piece of porcelain. Once it was thoroughly shattered into pieces, all the cracks left behind could never be truly repaired and restored to their original perfect state. Rather than struggling painfully to survive among the cold broken shards, it was far better to let go completely without hesitation. Upon all those past emotional ruins, a brand new life order had already been firmly built. My life from this day forward was a wide open, smooth road leading straight towards an infinitely bright future.